1 in 3 home sellers across the United States cut their asking price in February of 2026. According to Redfin, that is a record going back to 2012. Picture driving into Washington, D.C. on a clear morning. The monuments rising above the tree line, the Capitol dome dead ahead. The city every real estate agent pointed to when you asked about risk. This one is safe, they said. Permanent jobs, permanent demand. It cannot fall. But here is what they are not telling you. Today, we count down the 10 major American cities where home prices are now collapsing, cities that were supposed to be protected from what happened in Florida and Texas. Cities with universities, tech campuses, federal jobs, and decades of proof. And the number 1 city on this list is the one that will genuinely shock you. Subscribe now so you never miss the next housing warning. Drive through the Back Bay on a clear spring morning. Red brick row houses line both sides of the street, gas lamps still burning from the night before. The Charles River catches the light just a few blocks south. Harvard and MIT within shouting distance. Boston has always looked like money, and for the better part of a decade it felt that way too. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Wolf Street's analysis of the latest Case-Shiller report, Boston home prices have now slipped below their prior year high the first time in over a decade. The city every financial advisor told you would never fall. One of the most educated, most employed metros in the country. Slipping. Here is the problem. As Fortune reported in May of 2026, roughly 80% of American mortgage holders are locked into rates below 4% from before 2022. They cannot list without doubling their monthly payment. And with mortgage rates sitting at 6.4 to 6.5%, buyers are not stepping in to replace them. Buyers who sat out the 2021 and 2022 frenzy are still sitting it out. Not because prices dropped enough to feel affordable, because they fell just enough to confirm the fear. As Inman reported in June 2026, sellers across non-Sunbelt markets are now pulling their listings rather than accepting lower offers. Boston is one of those markets. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak homes in Boston were selling for approximately $800,000. According to Wolf Street's Case-Shiller analysis, that same home is now worth around $792,000. $8,000 gone on paper. But factor in a standard real estate commission when you sell, and you are walking away $56,000 short before you even schedule a moving truck. If the most educated, highest-income city on the East Coast cannot hold its home values, what city do you think is still safe? On a clear day in Portland, you can see Mount Hood from the bridge over the Willamette. Hawthorne Street, still lined with vintage shops and coffee roasters. This was the city that people from Los Angeles and San Francisco flooded into in 2020 and 2021, chasing lower prices, open space, and the promise of a different kind of life. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's February 2026 data, 1 in 4 homes actively listed in Portland has already had its price reduced, 24% of all listings. And according to Wolf Street's analysis of Case-Shiller data, Portland is among the cities where condominium prices have dropped between 15 and 33% from their 2022 highs. Here is the root cause. The pandemic buyers who moved to Portland to escape California prices brought California-sized bidding wars right along with them. They inflated a market that was never built to sustain those prices. The moment the migration wave reversed and remote work policies tightened the demand that lifted Portland simply evaporated. The California transplants who came chasing affordability are now discovering what they paid was the peak, not the floor. They outran high prices in one city and walked straight into a bubble in the next. As Inman reported in June 2026, sellers in markets like Portland are quietly withdrawing their listings, rather than accepting what the market is actually willing to pay. If you bought in Portland near the 2022 peak, here is what happened to your money. According to market data, buyers at that peak are looking at paper losses of between $50,000 and $80,000 before you add a single dollar in closing costs or commissions. You move to Portland to escape California prices. Now that Portland is falling too, where exactly do you go? Stand on any east-west street in Denver, and the Rocky Mountains frame the end of it. Just there, massive, permanent, impossible to miss, Lodo still buzzing on Friday nights. The rooftop bars still packed in June. Everything looks like a city that got the future right. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. Denver home prices fell 3.2% year over year, confirmed across multiple real estate data sources for 2026. And as Denverite reported in June 2026, the number of homes currently for sale in Denver is more than double what was available in 2022. More than double. In a market where sellers are already slashing prices. The root cause is what you could call the return to office trap. Hundreds of thousands of remote workers moved to Denver during the pandemic years, chasing mountain views and relative affordability. When their employers started calling them back, many could not sell what they had paid for. According to Redfin's February 2026 data, 24% of all Denver listings have already had a price reduction. And as Westward reported in May 2026, Denver sellers are finally coming to terms with the market phrasing that tells you everything about how long the denial lasted. Those pandemic-era buyers are still holding on, still hoping the market comes back. It has not. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak, homes in Denver were selling for approximately $600,000. According to market data, that home is now worth around $540,000. A paper loss of roughly $60,000 before you call a real estate agent. The mountains are still beautiful, but when your mortgage payment is $2,000 higher than your neighbor's brand new build down the street, how long do you wait before you have to sell? Step off the ferry from Bainbridge Island and you get the full picture. Seattle's skyline reflected in Elliott Bay, construction cranes still wrapping South Lake Union Pike Place, still packed at 9 in the morning. This is Amazon's backyard. Microsoft's campus is 20 minutes east. The tech money is visible in every direction. Seattle has looked like a boom for so long that most people stopped questioning it. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's April 2026 data, Seattle's median home price is $861,000, and it fell 2.9% over the 3 months ending that same April compared to the year before, in the city where Amazon and Microsoft write their paychecks. And according to Redfin data cited by Newsweek, 29.5% of Seattle home sellers cut their asking price in April 2026, nearly 3 in 10, nearlies. The root cause is layoffs meeting lock-in. Amazon and Microsoft both reduced significant portions of their workforce in 2023 and 2024. The high-income buyers who once absorbed Seattle's premium listings have thinned out. Meanwhile, the sellers who locked in sub-4% rates before 2022 will not list at today's rates. So the market sits. Thousands of tech workers who purchased at the 2021 and 2022 peak are now holding assets worth less than what they paid. Not foreclosures, not bankruptcies, just uncomfortable math late at night. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak, homes in Seattle were selling for approximately $950,000. According to market data, that home has declined, and buyers from that era are sitting on paper losses in a market where nearly 1 in 3 sellers is already cutting their price just to move. The 2 largest employers in the city laid off tens of thousands of workers. The prices have not fully caught up yet. What happens when they do? Stand at the top of Dolores Park on a clear afternoon, and the whole city spreads out below you. Victorian houses in pastel colors. The Bay Bridge cutting east across the water. The financial district towers catching the late sun. This was the most expensive real estate on earth for most of the last decade. People paid $1.4 million for average 2-bedroom condos and called it a wise investment. For a while, they were right. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Wolf Street's analysis of Case-Shiller data, from April 2026, San Francisco mid-tier home prices are still 11% below their 2022 all-time high. Not recovered, not plateaued, still falling. This is 4 years after the peak, and the market has not found its floor. The root cause is structural, not cyclical. The remote work exodus of 2020 and 2021 sent San Francisco's core buyer pool high-income tech workers to Austin, Miami, and the suburbs. Demand collapsed faster than new inventory could be pulled from the market. The people who were supposed to pay San Francisco prices are no longer paying San Francisco prices. SF owners who bought in 2021 and 2022 are now checking Zillow after midnight doing math they do not like. Not the kind of underwater that gets you a foreclosure notice. The kind that makes you realize you have been locked in a depreciating asset for 3 years. If you bought here in 2022, here is what happened to your money. A home that sold for approximately $1.4 million at the peak is now worth around $1,246,000, according to Wolf Street's Case-Shiller analysis. That is $154,000 gone on paper. And the gap between what you paid and what the market will give you is not closing. Office vacancy surged. Remote work gutted the demand. So who exactly is coming to save the San Francisco housing market? Cross the Bay Bridge, heading east, and Oakland opens up on the other side. Hills behind it, water in front, street murals 6 stories tall in the Temescal district. Oakland always had a rougher edge than San Francisco, but it had the same zip code proximity, and for a few years, the same price tag to match. In 2022, buyers who got priced out of San Francisco came here instead, paid $900,000, told themselves they had made a smart move. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you, according to Wolf Street's analysis of Case-Shiller data from April 2026. Oakland home prices have dropped between 25 and 26% from their 2022 peak, one of the 2 steepest declines of any major city in the entire country. And according to Wolf Street's May 2026 report, condominium prices in markets like Oakland have fallen so far that some are now back to where they were 20 years ago. Not a typo, 20 years. The root cause is identical to San Francisco, only faster. Oakland absorbed the overflow demand from the city across the bay. When that demand stopped, Oakland had nowhere to pass it on, no next city to absorb the overflow, just inventory and gravity. The buyers who crossed that bridge in 2021 and 2022 are now staring at paper losses that would make any normal person go quiet. They did not buy in Oakland because they loved Oakland. They bought because they got pushed out of San Francisco, and now both cities are falling at the same time. If you bought in Oakland in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak, homes in Oakland were selling for approximately $940,000. According to Wolf Street's Case-Shiller analysis, that home is now worth around $700,000. That is a paper loss of $240,000 a down payment on 2 additional homes gone. If you paid $940,000 for a home in Oakland in 2022, and it is now worth $240,000 less, at what point does the paper loss become a real decision? Drive across the Howard Franklin Bridge into Tampa on a clear morning, and the skyline comes up fast and low over the water. The rooftops of Channelside, the stadium visible to the south, the palm trees still doing what palm trees do. Tampa was the poster child for everything that was supposed to work out. Sun, growth, affordability relative to Miami at least. When remote workers started looking for warm weather and lower price tags, Tampa was the answer everyone gave. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to the S&P Totality Case-Shiller data, published by Fortune on May 26, 2026, Tampa home prices are down 1.9% year over year. Tampa is ground zero, the first major Sun Belt city to crack, and it cracked loudest. Here is why it happened here first. In 2 years, 2020 and 2021, Tampa absorbed a wave of remote workers from the Northeast and Midwest who pushed prices up more than 40%. Then interest rates rose, in-migration slowed, and insurance costs, already brutal in coastal Florida, became a deal breaker for buyers. According to Insurance.com's 2026 market data, Florida's average homeowner's insurance premium now sits at approximately $7,562 per year. That is 3 times the national average. Sellers in Tampa have been trying to exit since 2024. The listings are there. The buyers are not. The party ended and nobody told the guests still holding the keys. If you bought in Tampa in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak, homes in Tampa were selling for approximately $410,000. According to Redfin's 2026 data, that same home is now worth closer to $381,000. That is nearly $30,000 in paper losses in a market where the correction has been running for 2 years and shows no sign of stopping. Tampa, Dallas, then LA. Every city the analysts said was safe wasn't. So, which city are the experts calling safe right now? And why exactly should you believe them this time? Drive north out of downtown Dallas on the Dallas North Tollway, and you can watch the city keep building. New office towers, new apartment blocks, new subdivisions stretching all the way to the horizon. Dallas never stopped constructing, never slowed down. For 20 years, every number pointed up population jobs, corporate relocations. The biggest companies in America were moving their headquarters here. The story felt bulletproof. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. Dallas home prices are down 1.7% year over year, according to the S&P Cotality Case-Shiller data published by Fortune on May 26, 2026. And according to Redfin's April 2026 data cited by Culture Map Dallas, more than 50% of home sellers in Dallas cut their asking price that month. More than 1 in 2 sellers gave up on the price they wanted, in a city that was supposed to be immune. The root cause is oversupply meeting hesitation. Texas added more new construction inventory than almost any other state during the boom years, builders chasing the migration wave. The wave has now slowed to a trickle. As the Texas Real Estate Research Center reported in May 2026, the state is sitting on 10 months of supply, nearly double the inventory levels of 2022. And unsold homes are sitting on the market for an average of 94 days, a 2-year high. Homeowners who purchased in the suburban developments north of Dallas, Frisco, McKinney, Prosper are watching identical new builds nearby sell for less than what they paid. The builder down the street is offering rate buy-downs and closing cost credits just to move product. The neighbor who bought last year has none of those options. If you bought in Dallas in 2022, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin's 2026 data, the median Dallas home price is now $385,000. At or near the peak, that same home was selling for approximately $440,000. That is $55,000 in paper losses in the city, where everybody told you the jobs would never stop coming. More than half of Dallas home sellers have already cut their price once. So, when they cut it again, who exactly is the buyer they are waiting for? Drive west on Sunset Boulevard at golden hour, and Los Angeles makes its case. The hills going amber in the late light. The billboard for the movie you have not seen yet. The Pacific, just visible at the end of the road if the smog cooperates. Los Angeles has absorbed every crisis, every earthquake, every recession, and come out the other side more expensive than before. For generations, owning a piece of LA meant owning a piece of something that could not go down. That is what people believed. That is what they were told. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. Los Angeles posted a 1.6% annual decline in home prices, according to the S&P Cotality Case-Shiller data published by Fortune on May 26, 2026. The first annual decline in the Case-Shiller data for Los Angeles in over 6 years. The second largest housing market in the United States, officially negative. And Capital Economics, which cut its full-year national home price forecast to 1% from 3, cited the Los Angeles decline as one of the primary signals that the housing correction has spread beyond the Sun Belt. The root cause is a triple threat. Wildfire risk following the January 2026 fires has made insurance increasingly difficult and expensive to obtain in many LA neighborhoods. Mortgage rates climbed to 6.5% in April of 2026, according to Fortune pricing out the already thinned buyer pool. And the pandemic-era price surge pushed median prices so far above local incomes that demand has simply run out. Los Angeles homeowners who purchased in 2021 and 2022 are now holding assets that have lost value in a city they were told never lost value. They were not sold on speculation. They were sold on certainty. The certainty was wrong. If you bought in Los Angeles in 2022, here is what happened to your money. At or near the peak, median homes in Los Angeles were selling for approximately $900,000. According to Case-Shiller data, that home has declined 1.6% year over year and further from peak. You are looking at paper losses of $40,000 and rising in a market where capital economics believes the momentum is still heading in one direction. If the second largest housing market in the United States just posted its first annual decline in 6 years, what does that tell you about the markets that were supposed to be even more stable? Drive into Washington, D.C. from Virginia on the George Washington Parkway, and the monuments rise up on the left. The Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, the dome of the Capitol building visible over the tree line. This is the one city in America that was never supposed to be on a list like this. Federal government jobs do not move to cheaper states. They do not disappear in a downturn. They do not respond to mortgage rates or builder incentives or Zillow algorithms. Washington, D.C. was the argument real estate agents used to end every conversation about housing risk. The jobs are permanent. The market is protected. You cannot lose here. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Capital Economics, cited by Fortune on May 26, 2026, Washington, D.C. has officially turned negative. The federal jobs capital of the world. The one city where everyone, every broker, every financial advisor, every parent who wanted their kid to buy something stable pointed and said, that one is safe. Negative. As of March 2026. The root cause is a force nobody built into the model. The federal workforce is being reduced at a pace not seen in decades. The class of buyers that made D.C. real estate expensive, government employees, federal contractors, lobbyists orbiting the agencies, is contracting. The demand side of the D.C. housing market was built on the assumption that the federal government never shrinks. That assumption is no longer holding. Federal workers and contractors across the D.C., Maryland, Virginia corridor are now calculating their next move. Some are listing, many are waiting. All of them are watching an asset they were told was guaranteed appreciate nowhere near what they expected. If you bought in Washington, D.C. in 2022, here is what happened to your money. According to Capital Economics, D.C., home prices have officially turned negative. The company did not disclose the specific decline percentage. But this much is clear in a market that the entire real estate industry used as proof that some cities are too stable to fall. The math is now moving in the wrong direction. And according to Capital Economics' Thomas Ryan, the full impact of rising mortgage rates has not yet been absorbed. The mid-year numbers he wrote will be worse. If the city built on federal government jobs, the one place every real estate agent pointed to as the ultimate safe investment, has officially turned negative, then which city in America is actually safe? 10 cities, 3 time zones, Boston to Seattle, Oakland to Washington, D.C. What do they all have in common? Every single one of them had a story, a reason it was different, a reason the rules that applied somewhere else did not apply here. Boston had the universities, Seattle had Amazon and Microsoft, Denver had the mountains and the quality of life, San Francisco had the tech industry, Oakland had the proximity, Portland had the affordability advantage, Tampa had the sunshine and the migration wave, Dallas had the corporate relocations and the jobs. Los Angeles had 40 years of proof that the market only goes up. And Washington, D.C. had the federal government, the most permanent employer in the history of this country. Every single story turned out to be a reason to delay asking harder questions. Here is the pattern that runs through all 10 cities. When rates were near zero and money was cheap, buyers paid prices that only made sense if everything stayed exactly the way it was. The jobs would keep growing. The people would keep coming. The companies would keep relocating. The government would keep hiring. None of those assumptions were wrong. They were just priced in at a level that left no room for anything to slow down. And things slowed down. The Case-Shiller Index, as Fortune reported on May 26, 2026, is now showing what capital economics called in writing a decline that is no longer just a Sunbelt story. The deterioration is broad. It is in tech cities. It is in government cities. It is in cities with strong job markets, good schools, and every reason that was ever given for why real estate there would hold its value. And here is the part that has not fully landed yet. Capital Economics' Thomas Ryan wrote in May 2026 that the full impact of mortgage rates climbing to 6.5% in April has not yet been absorbed by the data. The Case-Shiller Index runs on a 3-month rolling average of closed transactions. What closed in March reflects decisions made in January. The decisions being made right now by buyers who looked at those rates and walked away will show up in the numbers around mid-year. The data you are seeing today is not the floor, it is a lag. This video is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or real estate advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making any investment decisions. The warning signs were always there. The question is, were you watching? Subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your city in the comments below.